The highly anticipated February Nintendo Direct has come and gone, and with it we got a brand new and probably final trailer for Tears of the Kingdom. There were tons of new things shown, from new monsters to new Sheikah tech, and even the reveal of what I assume to be Ganondorf's voice. So allow me to piece by piece break down and analyze this trailer for all the juicy reveals it contains. The trailer opens with a shot of rainy Hyrule, with 3 lightning strikes appearing at once, which already seems to symbolize the triune nature of the Triforce. We can see what's mostly a familiar landscape with a few differences, such as the green magic spirals and malice spewing Death Mountain, which were both seen in a previous trailer. As the lighting darkens, we can see a pool of malice beside the green spiral structure. The next shot is of an enemy camp, which does look reminiscent of Bokoblin camps in the first game, but this time, the bat-like Keese monsters seem to have mutated into a different species entirely, with frog-like heads and legs. The next shot is very interesting, because in the original trailers, we couldn't see any Sheikah towers in the distance. However, in this trailer, we can see what appears to be Sheikah towers, but upon closer inspection, might be something different because it has a slightly different shape. My guess is that, fitting with the theme of the monsters becoming smarter in Tears of the Kingdom, perhaps they've found some way to deactivate or alter the towers and are now setting up camps at their bases, building some sort of structures alongside them and using spotlights to light up their work. Though what their plan is currently unknown. There's also another of the neon green land markings in this shot, but it appears different from the ones in the previous trailer. In this next shot, we can see another one of the sky islands of Skyrule, as I like to call it, above Hyrule far below. There is also another floating island that appears to have been created by the same ancient people group responsible for creating the ancient materials showcased in all the Tears of the Kingdom trailers. We can also see another different land marking here as the cloud moves away. The next shot is incredibly interesting. We can see Bokoblins and Lizalfos spewing the dark red malice from the trailers, implying that Ganon's magic has not only returned but is now, well, supercharged. Perhaps this has even enhanced their intelligence, because we can also see a Bokoblin mining for materials. As we back up and inspect more of the area, from the strange trees to the swirling mushroom-like yellow structure to the grass that doesn't really look like grass, it's clear to me that this is not Hyrule, meaning this must be somewhere up in Skyrule, which would explain all of the different mushroom-like structures and the strange ruins positioned further behind. It also proves that we will be facing familiar enemies up in the sky. Next up, we have a shot of Lake Hylia and are allowed to hear what I assume is none other than Ganondorf's voice, but more on that in a second. Visually, we are shown a giant flaming 3-headed dragon guarding the bridge, as well as the floating Hyrule Castle and Death Mountain, both of which are spewing malice. The next shot is of the familiar Hateno village from the viewpoint of the lab. It looks no different other than the fact that one of these new spiral structures is shown here on this cliff, and as you can see from in-game in Breath of the Wild, the spiral is completely new, where previously there was a giant tree. I'm not sure if this means some trees can turn into these spirals, but it seems to have completely replaced it either way. In the background, we can see a giant blue pillar-like structure that I can only assume is new, since there was nothing like that before in Breath of the Wild, and it may be one of the new blue structures that resemble Sheikah towers. The next shot is of Link standing within a Hylian structure looking out towards a blood moon. This seems to imply that the blood moon is going to be the catalyst for Ganondorf's return, but more on that in an upcoming theory that I'm already thinking up. As we are given a close-up shot of the terrifyingly red blood moon, Ganondorf's words end, which from start to finish are, "Rise, rise my servants, sweep over Hyrule, eliminate this kingdom and her allies, leave no survivors." This seems like a pretty cut and dry message from Ganondorf to his risen by the malice of the blood moon monsters to, you know, eliminate everyone in Hyrule and her allies, which either means the Gorons and Zora and Gerudo or the other kingdoms outside Hyrule. But in my opinion, it's most likely a reference to the other races of Hyruleans within Hyrule. We are then shown the floating Hyrule Castle as literal flying shards of malice spew out of something. My guess is being possibly Death Mountain, since that would fit with the eruptions that Death Mountain is known for, although when the camera pans towards the ground, the structures we are shown are definitely new and more in line with the Skyrule structures than those on Hyrule, so this might be a completely new flying island. Next, we are shown an explosion of malice out of a strange shape that I can only assume is the Ganondorf corpse, but it's very hard to make out for sure. Then we are shown a shot of crumbling volcanic rock. Perhaps if this happens right after the explosion that we just saw, and if that explosion does come from Ganondorf's corpse, whatever's crumbling here might have been the area that he was encased within. After this, we are shown the familiar sight of Hyrule Castle breaking apart as it's lifted off the ground. Then we're given a fast, sweeping view of the Great Plateau and the Temple of Time, complete with a new land marking located nearby as the sky reddens from the malice of the blood moon. We are then shown Bokoblins with even newer pointed horns being hit by these shards of malice and presumably becoming powered up and more intelligent, leading to the mining operations we saw earlier. It appears all monsters are being powered up in the next shot, from Hynexes to stall enemies to Lizalfos and Moblins. Our next shot is of Link racing upon a horse that greatly resembles Epona, and in the background we can see a large blocky structure. The next quick shot is of what I assume to be a valley, perhaps in the Gerudo region, with a dark substance spewing from underneath the earth, probably malice. Next we see another Sheikah trap, or trial as they are fond of calling their traps, which entails 6 guardian-like appendages that surround Link, who looks surprised by this and is standing inside a cube-like Sheikah room. The arm in front of Link has a different attachment, perhaps this means it's the head or main arm of the contraption. Next we're shown more shots of the newly empowered monsters alongside blocky creatures, presumably fallen from the sky above. Link runs away from one of the new Hynexes and glides above the Thunder Plateau. Then we're shown a close-up of Link riding his horse across one of these giant land markings, which must be the locations of new important events. We are then shown the new Keese-like monsters carrying bokoblins, giving us a new understanding of just how big these new mutated monsters are. Link is shown fighting new moblins and then a giant mechanized monster created out of cubes and located somewhere in Skyrule. Clearly this is a construct of the ancient technology. We are then shown another angle of Ganondorf's corpse as Malice now very clearly pulls on his chest, which seems to lead into what happens at the end of the trailer. Then we're shown a shot of Hyrule Castle and Ganondorf conducting his dark ritual atop the platform where Link and Zelda discovered him. His eyes flash with malice once again. Then the trailer shifts abruptly to Link standing in Skyrule as Zelda's voice is heard. She tells Link she's not sure he'll be able to stop him being Ganondorf, which could be hinting at another character helping Link out in the game. We're shown a beautiful shot of many new islands in Skyrule, some of which ascend even higher than what was previously shown, and all of which come in many different shapes and sizes. Link once again descends toward Hyrule below, and we can see some of these floating islands behind him, but there's no way to tell what they are at this point or what's on top of them. Link runs alongside one of the land markings down on Hyrule, and we can see a few of the new tower structures in the background, which do look less like Sheikah towers now that they're in the daylight. Link showcases a new arrow type that he can fire, which has the ability to home in on enemies. Presumably this new weapon is the result of Link's adventures in Skyrule. Link is then shown shield surfing down railing that I assume was created by either the Gorons or Ganondorf's new monsters, since they're clearly performing some sort of mining operations in the game. In the background we can see Skyrule. I'm not sure if what Link's currently on is in Skyrule or not, since the ground he's beside is so close to the camera. As Link nears the roadblock, we can see new mining carts and boxes that were not previously seen in Breath of the Wild. The bokoblins are wielding rusty claymores, which implies that at least some of the weapons are returning. Link then rotates a mechanism that rotates a much larger structure, very similar to the Sheikah puzzles that do the same thing in the Sheikah shrines below. Although interestingly enough, it looks like this structure is improved upon because it allows Link to rotate it based off of one set axis at a time, as opposed to the sometimes frustrating free motion of the Sheikah puzzles. Next we are shown Link wield a giant two-handed ancient technology weapon that fires an explosive blast at a stone talus. In the background we can see lots of luminous stones, and the stone talus itself also appears to be created out of luminous stones as well. This makes me think that this shot was taken somewhere in Hyrule, perhaps down in the cave structures that they're exploring in the other trailers. The next shot is another extremely interesting one because I believe this individual shown here is the same individual shown on the walls in the previous trailer, and for many reasons I believe it is Hylia herself, but you'll have to check out my previous theories for that. The figure appears to be female and has the symbology of 6 and twin teardrops on its tabard, and it reaches down and grabs someone's hand, presumably Link's, but it's quite hard to tell for sure as it doesn't show us any more than the hand. It does appear to be the exact same hand though, and almost as if to either prove it is Link's hand or to purposefully misguide us, we are then shown Link standing in Skyrule looking at his altered hand. Down on Hyrule, in an area that looks similar to the Great Plateau, Link lifts a non-magnetic object out of the mud with the power of his new hand. On a pillar in the mud, we can see a new ancient kind of chest that again appears to be linked to all the ancient green structures that have fallen down to Hyrule. The object Link lifts out of the mud is shown next on a giant car that Link is driving. Apparently you'll be able to farm these ancient materials and pieces in the game to create these complex structures, such as a car. The power source for this vehicle is shown behind Link and looks like some sort of container of this pure blue-green ancient energy. Also, the car has headlights, which is pretty cool. Another of these craftable vehicles looks to be a hot air balloon, which is held together by the green substance. And yet another vehicle appears to be a fan-propelled platform which Link can also drive around, presumably from Hyrule up to Skyrule. The next shot shows Link approaching the giant slanted cube structure, which may be the same one that was shown earlier. As the camera zooms forward, we can see Skyril above, the new towers in the distance, a pool of malice to our left, as well as a camp that has possibly a person standing in it and a glowing cube falling from the sky, and a bit more of that cube structure that appears to have the blue-green energy at its base as the logo fades in. Next, we are shown Ganondorf's corpse, apparently at the scene showcased in the very first trailer, with a tendril of living malice shooting outward, as Link faces him with the Master Sword, which now has malice all over it. Link's hand does as well. The tendril shoots quickly towards Link, and then we're shown a close-up of Link, who we can already see the effects of the malice on as it spreads up his shoulder. He appears to do something, then it cuts to the tendril again, then it cuts back to Link, who is now without the Master Sword and with a much worse looking arm, turning and leaping towards Zelda, who's falling down as shown in 3 trailers now, seemingly having left the Master Sword behind, as Zelda's voice can be heard again saying, "Please, lend him your power." It's unclear if Link is able to save Zelda at this point, but the most interesting takeaway is the question of who Zelda is speaking to. Presumably the him that Zelda is referring to is Link, and the person she's speaking to is presumably the entity that changes Link's arm and grants him new powers. Presumably this entity, which is presumably Hylia. That does end the trailer, and yeah, there's a lot that happened here. I'll most likely be making a ton of theories in the days and weeks to come, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to stick around for all of them. And hit that like button if you're excited for the game and we'll be picking it up later this year. Let me know if there's anything I missed that you noticed in this trailer, and that's all I've got for this one, but I'll see you real soon. This is Bandit, signing out. Peace!